Okay, so last week I mentioned how starting the first of the month, I was going to take each week and focus on one of the 5 diagnoses that I currently have, starting with the anxiety, going in alphabetical order just because that's how I am. So this video is going to conclude the first week, focusing on the anxiety. Next week will be the binge eating disorder. And I also mentioned last week about I believe it was last week. If it wasn't last week, it was the week before, about the Facebook page that I have put together to go along with the channel here. And if you haven't checked that out, I do urge you to. Like, especially this past week, every day I have shared some factoid or whatnot about the anxiety, the different types of anxiety, signs and symptoms, coping mechanisms, treatments, and all sorts of stuff like that. And then also how those pertain to me, as in which form of anxiety I have, what symptoms I have where are indicators where I know that the anxiety is getting worse. Um, Things that I use to help try to manage it, the treatments that I currently am on in order to try to manage it, um, and all of that fun stuff. And then, like, next week with the binge eating disorder, I'll go through similar things. Um, I also share different things that are going on in my life, and at that moment, different situations that have come up and how they make me feel and everything. I also think that it's a much better way to have an interactive experience. Yes, comments are, available for the videos. The Facebook page allows for private messages if you have questions or comments or whatnot, and you don't really want everybody out there to see them, since it is a public setup with the videos. That's there. You can comment, you can share posts on the page. They, I believe that the comments are not really monitored, if you will. But to post something onto the page, I do have to approve it. I would dare say that it would take something just absolutely inappropriate, I guess, for me to not post it. Um, I think it's a better way to get some feedback and to get some more interaction with the other viewers or members of the community. And I think it's easier to get the word out about the page and the channel and whatnot, with Facebook, because you can just share the link and everything. And I realize you can do that with the videos too, but I think that the more people probably utilize Facebook than they do YouTube. So it's that's kind of the hope, is that it will help allow a broader audience, a bigger audience. Um, so we'll see. Anyway, so this week is anxiety, and that really is one of the bigger issues I have. It doesn't take a whole lot of anything really to trigger it. Certain situations will make it worse. Um, being in certain situations will make it far more difficult to manage. Like, right now, my treatments are, I have Ativan to use as a, like, immediate reaction type of thing, to try to really tone it down and get some control. I don't really like to take things that I don't have to take. So it has to get to a point where it's very, very uncomfortable and really taking over for me to utilize that. Seeing my counselor once a week also is a form of treatment that I utilize. Seeing my psychiatrist regularly, along with individual coping skills such as music is a big one. Very big. I quite often will have my earbuds in and music going, and that just, I use it to try to help block out the most anything, any interactions, and it with the music going in my ears, it allows me to focus on that, and it kind of silences the thoughts and everything for a while. So that's like a big thing for me. And most times it works really well. The times that it really doesn't work so much is usually if I have them in and somebody tries to talk to me while I have them in. That very much frustrates me and upsets me because whether it is or isn't, I always view that as being very rude. Unless it's, something that like is an emergency or that you need to tell me right then and there, something that can't wait. That's one thing, and I understand that. But to try to hold a conversation, especially about something that's not pertinent to what is going on right then and there, it just very much does upset me because I have tried to be very open about the fact that is my biggest coping skill, my biggest tool that I have to help settle the thoughts and the feelings and everything. And so when that's interrupted, it very much makes me feel like you feel that whatever you have to say is far more important than what I'm trying to do for myself. And obviously nobody likes that feeling. I struggle with that more just because I've more often than not, felt that my importance wasn't valued, that there really wasn't much of an importance there, and that just kind of reiterates it to me, which then shoots the anxiety up higher. And up until the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years maybe, I never realized that like my biggest sign of anxiety, other than like the racing heart and the panic set in, is I never knew extreme irritability was a sign of that. And after I learned that, I sit there and I think, and I'm like, that makes so much sense, because it's usually when I'm in a stressful situation, when something's not going as planned. Very often, if I'm cooking something that I've never cooked before, or even if I have cooked it a number of times, my time management is horrible, absolutely horrible. So I'm always stressing about getting it done on time, and my anxiety is always, well, is it going to be right? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be overdone, underdone? There are certain things like chicken, especially on the rare occasion I fix pork. I am always freaking out, is it done enough? Because I don't want to make somebody sick. So if I'm already in that state where I'm frazzled, and then you come in and you try to have a conversation with me or something, my entire body will tense up, and I'm just so anxious and so wired. And it doesn't take much for that turn into rage is like the word that always sets with me. It just, like, my whole body gets so tense and like it needs this escape. And I just feel this need really to like physically get it out there, and it makes me feel like I need to throw something, hit something, scream, just get this negative energy out there. And so I was talking to my counselor. I guess it was a couple weeks ago when we were really talking about that. And it was through one of the therapy things we were doing, and that came out. And she had suggested and said that it has been proven, I guess, um, that it's far more effective when you feel that urge to not have that sudden outburst, like a sudden punch into something, that something along the lines of like having somebody hold your hands and you push against each other, that slow but steady release is uh, far more beneficial. Um, it'll last longer, and um, which I thought was really interesting because it's like when that is there, and that stress and that need to get it out is like I want it out and I want it out now, and it just seemed to me like that sudden getting it out there would be far more beneficial and more sustaining, but apparently that's not the case. um, I honestly have not tried it yet. Not that I haven't had the feelings of needing to get it out there since she told me about it. It's just um, I have not allowed myself to do it. um, I tend to put up a wall. It's caused some issues, especially recently. And so that hasn't, I haven't allowed myself to drop it in the time that would really help. So I don't know. But back to the anxiety. So there are certain things that I know are gonna set it off before it even occurs. And um, like doing like my son's open house for one. I know when it's a event of some sort that I have planned, even if it's a very small gathering, um, the anxiety is there, and it is in full force because I want everything to be perfect. I want everybody to be happy. I want everything to be right. And if there is the slightest little hiccup and things are not, going according to plan, not on schedule, kicks it into overdrive. And that's generally the type of situation that occurs that will prompt me to take my Ativan. Um, Winter roads. Ooh, I don't really like being on the roads anymore unless I have to. If I'm driving, most other people I don't really care to ride with. My husband is one of the few that I'm very comfortable with. He's very observant, very responsible, and I'm quite relaxed with him. Um, Most of the time. Sometimes he takes a little longer to start braking than I really appreciate, so that will kick it up. But like winter roads, um, if I'm not driving, I will never take my Ativan and drive. Um, Barring an emergency, will I do that? Uh, Winter roads, if we're going to be on them for any length of time, um, I will will ride it out as long as I can, and then if I have to, I will take one. Um, those are two things that I know are going to trigger it. Um, Going certain places, knowing that certain people are there will trigger it, just because I often feel as though there are no boundaries allotted to me, and um, I don't like to feel like my space is being infringed upon or my time. Um, Sometimes I feel trapped, whether it be, you know, just more often than not, it would be like in a conversation, um, not about any particular topic, but just that I need out. I don't feel like talking most times. I don't really want to have much of a conversation with people. It's too much for me. It's just too stressful. I need to feel like I can get out of it, and I often don't. I don't want to upset somebody or offend them or hurt their feelings, so I won't pull back. And therefore, my anxiety and frustrations gets higher because um, I don't want them to feel bad in any way. So I take that on myself. And um, so if I know that I'm going somewhere or I'm going to be around certain people that is a very likely occurrence, my anxiety will just start kicking up before I even get there and get into it. And I can always tell if it's um, been a particularly anxious and stressful day. At the end of the day, my back will be 10 times worse than it normally is. I mean, I've got the two blown discs, one pushing one side, the other pushing the other side, both greatly impacting the nerves. So there's pain there most often anyway, but it gets far worse on the days that the anxiety is up, and that it's just because my whole body physically tenses up, and that puts pressure down there. Lately, headaches have been really coming in, and I've been getting nauseous often. Um, just getting too worked up about stuff. Like last night, I felt horrible. Just like my head was just throbbing, and I was so nauseous. And I knew it wasn't because I was sick. I knew it had to have been because the thoughts and stuff were just getting too much yesterday. And so when my husband and I talked about it, and I shared what was on my mind, he said that has to be what's going on. I'm sure that's why you're not feeling good, because you're holding all that in there. And it just, it's just one of the things that's what comes with it. Um, what had been really bothering me, I'm not really. I tend to think that it's the anxiety part, just because it's a fear. Um, I don't know. Maybe it is the other one or a couple of the other stuff. I honestly don't know. I tend to feel that it's an anxiety thing just because it is. It is. I'm scared. Um, I well, this coming Monday, the 7th, um, will mark 2 years that we have been together. Um, when we hit our 1 year of being together, that was the longest I'd ever been in a relationship. Yes, I was married before, and we were legally married for 3 years, and we'd been together a few months before that. But most of that time, we weren't even together. Um, so that was a big deal to me. And now we're coming up on our second year, and that's an even bigger deal to me. And yes, it is a wonderful deal to me. It also um, has brought this feeling of I've been waiting for a long time for the other shoe to drop and for this to be too much and for it to be not it to be, but for my husband to have hit that breaking point and to need out. And the further we get into the relationship, the more I'm scared of that. And it's not that I don't believe him when he says he has no intention of leaving. It's not that I don't trust him. It's that history has shown me that I have not been enough for people to stick it out. And that's what I don't trust. That's what has me scared, and that's part of where my problem was last night. I'm not a stupid person, so yes, he was married before. I know there's somebody else that's been in his life, and I know she's not the only one. Um, they were together for 8 years before she was kind of out of the picture, and I still struggle with it, and most days I'm able to not even think about it because there's no reason to. And then something will happen and her name will come up, and just this fear sets in. When I first started dating him and came over, though they were divorced by then, um, her knickknacks were still on the wall. Some of her stuff was still stored in the basement. And that from the very first moment didn't set well with me because I felt like she wasn't really gone. Um, Before I moved in, that had all been rectified. That was one of my stipulations when um, I was asked to move in. Said I couldn't do it while her stuff was still there. Um, so that, that was gone. Um, she still occasionally, not often, but enough that it bothered me, would reach out to him for help in some usually tech type thing, and that would bother me because she was still in the picture even though she wasn't in the picture. And but the other night we went out to pick up some takeout dinner because it was grocery night, and we went to a place that we hadn't previously gone. um, so we had no way of knowing who was working there or whatnot, and the girl ringing us up, um, he had said that he knew her, and he was thinking it was from work. He knew her, and that's all. That's the best he could put it. But then she reminded him that no, that's not how they knew each other. And when she threw up his ex-wife's name, it literally felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Like, I hate her name being brought up, and then that just like reiterates that fear. Um, and I don't know. It has to be the anxiety to me. That's all I can figure because you know I don't know. I feel like that's what it is. Anyway, but that was still sitting really hard with me last night, and that's when he's like, when I shared that with him, he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what's making you feel the way you're feeling with the headache and the nausea and everything. So we'll see. Um, I was thinking about taking a break and going and spending a day or two. Well, I was hoping for a couple days. Um, Downstate with my friend. She has a little guy who's like a month old, And so she'll be going back to work in a couple weeks. And then she has his older brother, who's like 2 years old now. And she has her husband, and I've never met a single one of them. And so I thought it'd be a good time, for a break and go visit while she's still on um, maternity leave, meet the kids, meet the husband, and all that stuff. And I'd like to, but finances and scheduling is just not going to allow that, I don't think, which then makes me feel really low, and I struggle with that. But I don't know. It's such a gloomy day. It's really cold. I'm sitting on the back porch in sweats and a sweatshirt, and I am shivering. So I'm probably not going to last much longer. Not that this, I kind of feel like this hasn't been a very quality video, which I'm so sorry for. Which maybe it has been helpful. I don't know. It's the second guessing. It's always overthinking and second guessing and questioning the worth of things and myself and all that fun stuff. So I don't know. But I don't know. So maybe I'll go in. I'll have a snack or something before I gotta get dinner going around. I don't know. So we'll see. So this is gonna wrap up the anxiety week. And starting tomorrow, Monday, the 7th, we will start focusing on binge eating disorder and how that came about with me and what that looks like and all that fun stuff. So I guess until next time, I hope you guys have a good week. I don't have any one of those catchy, sign offs. Just isn't there. Um, I did want to ask. I mean, so far nobody's commented on any videos, so I don't even know if you guys will respond to this. But I know 2 of my videos I've had to piece together 2 videos because it stopped recording for whatever reason. And so sometimes, if there's blunders along the way or whatnot, I leave that in. I'm not editing. And so I just keep going with it. I'm just wondering how you guys feel about that. Is that something that you're okay with? Would you rather it not be that way? The reason I'm asking is none of this is scripted. Sometimes I'll go in with some ideas I know I want to touch on. Most times when I write, when I talk, any of that stuff, I'll start with a thought, and what comes. So I don't script it out. I'm not one of those people. Even if I had a script, I couldn't stick to it. I'm not good at that. My mind goes too many different places to stick with that. So if that's something you would rather like a scripted thing, let me know and I will do my best. I will most likely overthink it and second guess and freak out as to whether it's right, wrong, all of that. We'll see. But anyway, so in the meantime, have a good week. If you are struggling, please feel free to reach out. If you don't know how to do it on here, get on the Facebook page and send me a message. I almost always have my phone. Sometimes I don't have the ringer on because I don't get a whole lot of phone calls, but generally the phone calls I do get are asking for something, and that gets overwhelming after a while. So sometimes the ringer's not on. But I do see when I have messages from Messenger, and if it's something like that, I will definitely answer, reach out, respond as soon as I see it. and try to offer what help and support that I can. That's the point of all of this. So if you need me, use me. All right. Have a good one and see you next week.